everybody. I'm the agency chaplain for the Greater Baton Rouge affiliate in our beautiful southern Louisiana. So today I'm going to share with you some of my faith journey and especially my journey through Volunteers of America. In 2005, I was contracted as a resource facilitator and stress manager for the crisis counselor team that was locating and assisting people with mental health issues who had evacuated from either Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Rita in our western part of our state. That eventful summer brought together many people from divergent places and cultures and became some of the most profound work of my life. And I'm thinking that most people who worked in post-Katrina recovery and post-Rita recovery could share that same insight with you. When we live a purposeful life, God plants us where we need to be. And that grace to have been brought into the fold of Volunteers of America in such an eventful time is certainly something I'm very thankful for. In 2008, I was commissioned in New Orleans, and in 2010, I was ordained in Seattle. At that time, I was approached by our then chaplain, Bud Snowden, some of you may know, to produce a document, this document called A Ministry of Service Supporting the Expression of Spirituality for Persons with Intellectual Disabilities. This research document and resource guide was developed over a 2.5-year period by Bud and myself. We have since adopted this within our affiliate as a policy that we will uphold for all of the people we serve and for all of the people that are employed by us. We're very proud of that project. So I have never until now actually been a full-time employee of Volunteers of America. On July 1, I was hired by David Knipe, our CEO and president and lead minister, to journey with our ministry team through these next few years. And I am blessed to have the opportunity. So I cannot tell my Christian story without telling you about my mother. In a book I wrote several years ago called Cutting the Clouds, a Bayou Mystic's Poems, Musings, and Imaginings, I tell the story of my ancestry on Bayou Lafourche in the marshes, and also my mother's ancestry and history. What a beaut she was in the 1940s, huh? Let me get this straight. There you go. And of course, I know exactly what I'm going to look like at 83, don't you think? Yeah. My faith journey began with that woman's story. I am cut from a golden cloth. I will tell you 2 stories about my mother that will be very telling. My Christian roots began with my mother, a devout Roman Catholic, until some complications in childbirth resulted in a tube ligation and subsequently an excommunication from the Roman Catholic Church. Always the innovator and the problem solver, my mother and 4 other women recruited a pastor and founded the First United Methodist Church of Golden Meadow, still standing, and still with an active community. Problem solved. The next story I'll tell you is of her prophetic nature. Years before she died, she and my brother went to prepare all of the funeral arrangements for her eventual death. When the funeral director asked her who would preside over her funeral service, she said, "Bessie will," much to my brother's surprise. 2 years before I was ever involved with Volunteers of America, my mother knew I had a vocation to the clergy. I am cut from that golden cloth. My faith journey has taken me by way of the crooked path, meandering through faith traditions and seeking the people I eventually found in Volunteers of America. As a young Methodist, I learned Bible stories, gave me a sense of the person of Jesus. And then in my teenage years, as many people do, I became unchurched for a few years. Then I met my husband of nearly 40 years, Tommy, and had my 2 sons, Christian Gabriel and David Michael. Tommy was also unchurched and had been raised in the Episcopal Church. We wanted our family to be in a church together, and so we entered into the Rite for Christian initiation for adults. There were 2 Roman Catholic churches in our small town. The big, beautiful Gothic church on Main Street, and the small, simple, but inclusive and culturally diverse church across the tracks. We chose the latter. Our sons attended Catholic school and graduated. And as a Catholic, I learned a rich liturgical ritual, the healing power of the sacraments, and awakened a healing gift during these charismatic masses. At the same time, in my community, I met and befriended a second-generation Pueblo and studied Native American spirituality and developed a deep respect for our nurturing planet. When the local and national media began to uncover the acts of pedophilia in our diocese and also around the nation, I became disenchanted and began to seek again. I studied Buddhism for 2 years under the direction of a high-ranking Tulku, Rinpoche. That is, in their tradition, a reincarnated teacher. And in that 2 years, I learned to be still and listen for God's voice. I also learned to love in a different way, to have compassion, and to have true love for all sentient beings. In the Buddhist tradition, love means that you have a heartfelt desire that all sentient beings experience joy. And compassion means that you have a heartfelt desire that all sentient beings experience an end to suffering. I also learned a gratitude practice that I still use today. Before my head leaves the pillow in the morning, I list everything I can think of that I am grateful for. And when I go to bed at night, I remind myself of all of the things that occurred in the day, and I'm grateful for all of them, even the bumps in the road. Still seeking and not quite finding what I long for in Buddhism, and a spiritual community, I studied for a short time Taoism. They wanted me to be a vegetarian. I don't know too many Cajuns who can pull that off, and I certainly am not one of them. But what I did learn from the Taoists is the idea of interconnectedness. They use the metaphor of a tree trunk and its branches, we being the branches, the divine being the trunk, connecting us above and below to spirit. This often reminds me of something we read in Romans chapter 12. Though many, we are all parts of one body in Christ Jesus. Then that catastrophic summer of hurricanes and the recovery program from 2005 to 2008, the journey finally brings me home to a church without walls that devotes itself to service, my beloved Volunteers of America. My vision for us is that we will exemplify true servant leadership in all that we do to support our church, who strive to uplift all to a greater knowing of God. I'll leave you with a Harry Quiet quote from Mother Teresa. God did not call me to succeed. He called me to serve. I serve with a small team of dedicated ministers in a large geographical affiliate from Baton Rouge to Lake Charles. Please pray for me and our lead minister, David Knipe, and all of our ministers as we journey through this new season of awakening consciousness to social justice issues and tribal divisiveness, and our journey through a global pandemic where we are limited in our ability to serve those we love. Let us be of one mind and heart to call everyone to a higher moral standard and demonstrate love in all that we do. May the peace of Christ be with you today and every day.